Alright, welcome back everybody. Hope everybody's doing well out there. As you saw in the last episode, part 2, we had cleaned it up a little bit and decided not to restuff the cans. I've got the terminal strips in for the new filter caps, and I've started going through checking some of the resistors, and like I say, I'm going to start here and go that way and replace the caps and resistors as needed. I've already checked the 1 waters. I got a limited supply of 1 water, so I've got those on order. I had one of them, but I went ahead and ordered some more. Now here's the other thing you need to look for when you're changing your resistors, is let's say one is out of tolerance and it's 15% out, and so you go to your box and you get your resistor and it's not the exact replacement, it's not the same resistance, but it's close, because the older radios doesn't have the standards that we have today. And so if you replace it with that modern resistor, check the tolerance of that resistor versus the value. You could very well be as close with the one that's 15% out or 12% out or whatever. You could be as close with the old resistor as the new resistor, because it's not the exact value. It's just something, that you weigh up when you're changing this stuff out. On another note, I got to looking at the voltages when we get ready to bring this thing up, and this kind of ties into the zenith. Look at the statement here. Voltages value specified should hold within 20% when the receiver is normally operative and is rated line voltage. To duplicate the conditions under which the voltages were measured requires 1,000 ohm per volt DC voltmeter or meter, having the ranges of 10, 50, 250, and 500 volts, and you use the nearest range above the specified voltage. So this tells us basically what meter they were using, maybe not name brand, but what scales they were using. So that'll be helpful when we get ready to check the voltages in here. So that's just kind of a follow-up to the zenith story and the loading of the meter. And so I thought that was interesting that this actually puts it out. RCA seems to have a lot of better documentation than a lot of others. So let's start replacing some of this wire, capacitors, and resistors. Oh my. Okay, we're starting to roll now. I've got the terminal strip in. This terminal is going to represent the negative of this capacitor, this filter, which we've said floated off of ground, so this is not grounded in any way, and also the center tap goes to it. So that makes this side the positive side of the 10 microfarad capacitor, which I have here. And from the negative point to pin 6 is an 82K resistor that comes across and goes here, which I have a replacement for. And while I'm here, I'm changing this 390K. And there's also a 0.1 capacitor goes from pin 6 to ground. So, and I'll change that out. I'll show you when I get that point. This is what's so neat about this particular RCA is this drawing. I didn't get this off of Nostalgia Air. I got this off of the American Radio History 1937 book of RCAs, and I put it on a poster. It took 6 pages, but I put it on a poster, and this is the wiring diagram, and this is the circuit we're working on right here. Is the capacitor. You see it's floated from ground, and here's what we've got to make sure of. there are two wires, both of them brown, one coming from the transformer and the other one going through hole A up in the chassis. So there's two on the positive side, and on the negative side you've got your 82K resistor, you've got a brown black, which is your center tap wire, and you've got your black wire coming down going to your canode. So we got to make sure of those connections before we move on. Okay, this is going to be the positive terminal for the filter cap. We're going to make sure we got those two brown wires on right there. I haven't put the cap in yet, but I've got it. I'm waiting to make sure that I get all my connections and verified, but here's the two brown wires. This one's going up through hole A, and this one's coming from the transformer itself. So then this is the positive lead of the capacitor we'll put on. Now the negative lead, there's my 82K resistor. I'll solder this one, and when I replace this 390K. But on this one we had the center tap. I did a little patchwork there. It had a crack in it, and I put some heat shrink on it. So there's that terminal, the 82K, and the black wire going to the canode. So this is the negative of the capacitor. So we'll put that in, get those soldered up, and check those out. Okay, I think we've got this circuit completed. Here's the 390K. It goes over to pin 5. It's also a coupling capacitor from the 6F5 audio amp going to the output amp 6F6. Okay, I'm getting pretty deep into this thing now. This terminal strip is for these two capacitors. This capacitor, the can or the body of it is grounded to chassis. So I'm going to use this terminal for the ground and these two are going to be this capacitor, the plus and the minus. And then this one these two will correspond to this capacitor because it's got a floating ground on it. And so this one will be the ground, and this one will be the positive. As you can see, let me pan back just a little bit. This wire is yellow. So is the rest of this. Of course, you can see the red falling off of here. This wire, this wire right here goes to the plate of the output tube, and it goes to the B plus. Well, this is supposed to be a black wire, so the insulation is totally gone from there. Of course, this will go over to here on the B plus. So I'm having to redo the wires as we go along also. While I'm changing this black wire and this capacitor, I'm going to go ahead and clean this switch up, because you remember the on-off switch was messed up. I don't remember if I call this a volume control, but it's the on-off switch, but it's also the tone control. So I've bent the tabs back. We're going to take it apart together, and you may hear me scream. I don't know what we're going to find when we get in here. Okay. All right. The on-off switch is back here, and that's usually, it just pops, and these are notorious for being dirty. This is their tone control. So those look clean. I think the problem's down in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a continuity check on it. And let's see. I'm trying to remember. I think it's this one and this one. Okay, finally figured it out. It's the two across there. And you can see this. I think it's hard to tell which way it's supposed. I think that's supposed to be on. Let me spray it and see if we can get any results out of it. Took it outside and sprayed it with some deoxit and worked it about a couple of million times and let it dry out a little bit, and brought it in, tried it. I believe that's going to work just fine now. Let's spin these tabs back. I learned this from Michael at that Tube Sound. It actually came from his wife, to use wood to bend them back. Just have a lot less chance of breaking them. She learned that doing jewelry. I'm gonna have to get down on that one a little bit. All right, I got a bigger piece of wood and got down and mashed those, make sure it didn't come loose. And as you can see, now let's put it back in. Hope it works. Moving right along. As you remember, I'd finished this circuit, and then I started and I came over here and just about finished this this particular circuit, and then I got down into this mess down in here with all these capacitors. And then when you start, there'd be a wire attached to, let's say this, well, right here, there's a wire attached here, a rubber wire. Well, that rubber wire ran all the way to the volume control. Well, you had to do that. Well, when you start putting the ends on the capacitors and you run into a rubber wire, guess what? Go ahead, if you're going to desolder a connection, then you gotta take care what's on that one connection, and the rubber wire was there. So I've probably got 80% of the rubber wire replaced so far. Got a little more to go, but I've got a couple of resistors that I'm waiting. Some 1-watters I didn't have, so I'm waiting waiting on those. They'll be here probably Monday or so. As you can see, the rubber wires. Now, don't throw those rubber wires away. And you say, you foolish man, why are you wanting to keep those rubber wires? They make great extensions for leads. I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but sometimes in the older radios, the leads of the resistors are much longer than the modern resistors. Most capacitors will handle, it's got long enough leads, but the resistors, the leads are a lot shorter nowadays. So I saved these for lead extensions. So there we go. All right. I'm waiting for my resistor to terminate this wire here. It goes to the IF. I can probably go ahead and take care of these two caps, and there's one deep rooted way back up in here that I may use the curlicue method if I can't get to it, but we'll see. But we're making progress. It's time for a break though now. All right, that's one coat of Howard's Restore Finish. As you can see, this end, I don't mind this end right there. And I'm debating whether to come back. Get it on this side, and you can see the finish there. Just wondering if I could maybe melt some in that. I don't know. Let's see what we can do. I took a little lacquer thinner and melted the finish somewhat and got the cracks out of it. Now I've got a few little thin spots here and there, so what I plan on doing is using a little bit of toner lacquer and see if I can't make that color uniform now. Okay, this is the end. I haven't done anything to, and here's the top. Now it doesn't have any lacquer on it, it's just got toner on it. Now I did change game plans on you. I did take the rest of that off. Instead of just melding it, I took it off and I put some, what did I put? Some extra dark walnut on it, okay? And so I'm going to go back with some satin lacquer. I'm not going to touch the front. I'm going to leave the front just like that and finish the top and this, basically just the top and this end. Here's a tip I picked up from Martin at Fibber's Closet. In between coats, that was my lunch bag. But you rub between coats and it takes down some of the roughness. I've been using my hands, which works, but it might deposit a little bit of oil on there. This makes a lot more noise, I'm sure. Maybe you didn't see the top of my head. If you did, I'm going to edit this. But in between coats, rub it down with a lunch sack. Okay, boys and girls, I think we've got the cabinet pretty much done. I think I'm going to take and try to paint that white stripe around both sides. I tried to make the top not jump out and make the front drab looking. I may try to dull that top a little bit. Don't know. But I hit this end a little bit also with some lacquer just to brighten it up just a little bit. See, it's got that white stripe on this side. So I'm going to try to touch the other end up for that, but here we go. What do y'all think? I think this is going to wind part 3 up. As you can see, we're just about completed here. Still got to put this filter cap in. The resistors came in today. There's a resistor goes from this capacitor to this capacitor. There's 3 rubber wires, another capacitor way in the bowels. Got to replace this resistor here and put our tuning condenser in, and I got my belt today so we can do that. So we'll do that in part 4 and fire this thing up. But I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, like it. If you didn't, well, you just didn't like it. So appreciate everybody watching. Appreciate, I got about 4 or 5 new subscribers the last 2 or 3 days, and I'm having a problem getting my comments. Do not know. Other people have reached out to me and said they're having problems with their videos too. They're not receiving notification that they're getting comments. So if I'm slow about getting to respond to your comments, they're very, very important to me, and I believe in answering every single one of them that I possibly can. And if I don't know something, I'll say I don't know, but may refer you to somebody else or what have you. But just bear with me. I don't know. I don't think it's anything that I've done. I think it's something in YouTube that's not allowing me to get notification. Now I'm getting, if I post on somebody, if I post a comment on somebody else's page or channel, I get notification that they responded to it. But as far as somebody putting on a comment on my videos, I don't get notification on any of them. And I've checked all my settings. I haven't changed anything. There's no reason for it to be that way, but it is what it is right now. So anyway, so everybody was well here as of yesterday. No one in the county has confirmed a virus or anything, but I don't know, the thing hadn't come out yet, so I'll check it here shortly. So from Larry from the hills of Tennessee, thanks for watching.